Okay. We're called to order the council meeting of October 22nd, 2013. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight, the city is joining Youth United in Creative Action in their nationwide campaign to help keep youth safe from substance abuse by issuing a proclamation proclaiming October 23rd to the 31st, 2013 as Red Ribbon Week in the city of Inglewood. The proclamation reads as follows. Proclamation proclaiming the week of October 23rd to the 31st, 2013 as Red Ribbon Week. Whereas families and communities have been affected by the numerous problems associated with the use and addiction of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and whereas youth encounter decisions about using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs as early as their elementary school years, and whereas it is critical to reach youth with anti-drug messages and encouragement to remain drug-free, and whereas California has led the nation in making expansive investments in ambitious prevention education programs, advocating that communities and individuals continue prevention and education programs and activities that discourage the use and abuse of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and whereas the Asian American Drug Abuse Program and Youth United in Creative Action are participating in the nationwide effort to raise awareness for parents and community members regarding substance abuse prevention to protect our youth. Now therefore be it known that the mayor and council members of the city of Inglewood, California do hereby proclaim October 23rd to the 31st, 2013 as Red Ribbon Week in the city of Inglewood, presented the 22nd day of October, signed by the mayor and all council members. Ms. Norma Lopez, the collective member for Youth United in Creative Action, is here to receive the proclamation and speak about this campaign. Ms. Lopez, would you come forward?
Good evening, Mayor Butts, council members, and city staff. My name is Norma Lopez. I am a sophomore currently attending Inglewood High School. I am a youth advocate in Youth United in Creative Action. Our mission is to bring up awareness of drugs and alcohol abuse to inform our community and to find a resolution to minimize the challenges that cause youth to turn to these items. Our group comes together every Tuesday from 3 to 5 to expand and create ways that we can aware alcohol to others. Yucca has inspired me and many others to have changed us to a better person. We want to change our community and what it has become of. It was once said that together with a great and incredible mind, nothing is impossible if we work hard and set our minds to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, it's my pleasure to announce that the city is joining Rotary Club of Inglewood in their international initiative to eradicate polio. The city is issuing a proclamation proclaiming Thursday, October 24th, as World Polio Day in the city of Inglewood. Whereas the Rotary International motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary International in 1985 launched Polio Plus and spearheaded the Global Polio Eradication Initiative with the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, to immunize children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped by 99% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating this disease. And whereas to date, Rotary International has contributed more than $1 billion in countless volunteer hours to the protection of more than 2 billion children in 122 countries. And whereas Rotary International and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have extended their existing fundraising partnership that could generate up to $525 million in new money for polio eradication. And whereas every new dollar Rotary International commits to polio eradication, up to $35 million per year through 2018 will be matched 2-for-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And whereas these efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical personnel, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. And whereas there are over 2,600 Rotary Club members in more than 60 clubs in and near the city of Inglewood, sponsoring service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, health, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in their local communities and abroad. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council and members of the city of Inglewood, California, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2013 as World Polio Day in the city of Inglewood, presented the 22nd day of October 2013. Ms. Mary Rogers, president of Rotary Club of Inglewood, is here to receive the proclamation and speak about this initiative. Ms. Rogers.
Mayor, city councilmen, and other city officials, thank you very much for having us. I must say, though, that you stole all the information I wanted to provide today in the proclamation, so that you didn't leave a lot for me to say. But the Inglewood Rotary Club is more than proud to be a part of Rotary International. In addition to our commitment to international products, Rotary Club of Inglewood, as do other clubs, are committed to the communities that they represent. So we engage in many service projects that within our Inglewood area. We would like to invite all of you to come and visit our Rotary Club. We meet every Tuesday at noon at the Radisson LAX, which is at 6225 Century. That's right at Century and Sepulveda. We'd also like to offer to you our services. One of the things that we do annually is to have a day of service, and that is a day that we select, usually a place, where we commit our physical abilities, our elbow grease, and we invite other clubs throughout the district to come and join us to upgrade, rehab, or do something that will be meaningful, impactful to the city. So I would very much like for the council to think of something that they might recommend for us and contact us and let us know how we could be of service to you. Thank you again for the proclamation. It's wonderful, and that's what Rotary International is all about, part of the World Polio Day, October 24th, for us. It's very meaningful.
Will you come over with a few members over here? Yeah. Now we get back to reality. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
A quorum is present.
We've had the Pledge of Allegiance. Any persons wish to address the City Council on any item of today's agenda other than closed session, the public hearings may do so at this time.
My name is Alfonso Parker Jr., Vietnam veteran, council subjector, 1966-67. I find this issue relevant on tonight, although it was on the past meeting, which was an afternoon meeting.
Well, which item are you talking about right now? Right, this section, we have to talk about something on the agenda. Otherwise, it's open
It's,
comment, and it'll be
it's-
at the end.
Well, it's on the police issue on October 15th. And being a state and federal
Excuse me,
issue,
Hold on a second. What we have to do, we'll have to talk about that at the end. Right now, you have to talk about something that's on the agenda. Otherwise, we're glad to have you back at the end.
I'm sorry, so what?
You'd have to talk about something that's on the agenda right now. Otherwise, we're glad to have you back at the end. So see you at the end. Thank you.
It's on the agenda, just in between.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera. I object to the register payment to Inglewood today for the following reasons. Our tax dollars should not be given to any paper or any publisher which deliberately hides information from the public or even deliberately misleads and lies to the public to get money and political favors. Publisher Willie Brown and Inglewood today are an embarrassment to Inglewood. About a month ago, a process server served Willie Brown as he was sitting right there with a notice that he and his paper were being sued for libel. That's the type of person who is getting hundreds of thousands of our tax dollars. A liar, a fraud, someone who deceives the public. Inglewood Today is not a newspaper. It's like one of those government-sponsored papers in Russia or North Korea or China or Iran, where the paper only writes what the paper knows the government wants them to write. No paper in North Korea is going to say anything bad about their dictator, no matter what he does, and Inglewood Today will never say anything bad about Mayor Butts, no matter what he does. The city's own DVD of a July 2010 council meeting shows Ralph Franklin repeatedly calling the sergeant of arms to restrain James Butts the night Butts accused Yvonne Horton of committing election fraud when she removed him from the mayoral ballot. But after Butts became mayor, did Inglewood Today report that James Butts lied to the public and said that he never said anything bad about Yvonne Horton when she took him off the ballot? Of course not. Also, James Butts lied for about a year and said that he never helped violate people's civil rights when he was Santa Monica's police chief. But court documents say he did. Did Willie Brown and Inglewood Today ever write about that? Of course not. And a few weeks ago, when James Butts finally admitted that he did help violate people's civil rights in Santa Monica, did Willie Brown and Inglewood Today report that? Of course not. Now, when Frederick Martin was killed in April of 2012, and James Butts called a press conference to proudly announce a reward for information, and when he promised that Frederick Martin's killers would be caught, Inglewood Today did report that. But a year later, when Frederick Martin's killers were still on the loose, and James Butts completely changes his story and says that the rewards don't even work, and that there was never much of a chance that the killers would ever be caught, does Inglewood Today report the mayor's despicable flip-flop? Of course not. Inglewood Today isn't a newspaper. It's a tool of propaganda to mislead and manipulate Inglewood's population, just like the papers in those dictatorial countries. But don't believe me. Go to the internet, type in liar for hire, comma, Willie Brown, go to part 2, and see indisputable evidence that Willie Brown and his staff at Inglewood Today lie to and manipulate their readers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My theme is for the children, And I just want to thank everyone for coming to the 4th Annual Lights On After School Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Community Science Resource Fair that we will have the 3rd Saturday in November at our 101 South La Brea site, which is right across the courtyard, and we're glad to be in Civic Center. And this will have engineers and aerospace workshops free for the community and everybody. So come out and enjoy the intelligence that we have here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Boom. Thank you for saving me from that. Please.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Renee Fox. I'm the organizer of the Inglewood Open Studios Art Citywide Tour. The tour has been going on for 7 years. We have postcards outside on the tables for everyone who leaves after. And the city has been a really very generous sponsor of the tour in past years. I just want to say I'm very grateful for the support we've received from the city, and really happy to see that there's a recognition of the richness of the artistic culture that we have within the city of Inglewood. This year there's over 50 artists on the tour. And I've had a lot to do with having the new big buildings, the 1019 West and Beacon Arts Building, come into the city. So those are also really wonderful and have brought us attention from all over the art world in LA and nationally. Just very proud to be here and wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to echo what Renee said. Thank you for your past support, and thank you for your continued support of Inglewood Open Studios. It's very important because where art is, cities grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council, people of Inglewood. My name is Leroy Fisher. I'm from the 1st District. I'm concerned with regard to finances here, and I'm concerned with regard to so many people in this city being laid off. It's such that
Mr. Fisher, which item?
I'm talking about the finances of this city. And
Mr. Fisher,
yes,
you're gonna have to do that at the end of the meeting. I'll be glad to let you do it at the end of the meeting, but right now this is for agenda items.
well, it's an agenda item because it has to do with finances.
Mr. Fisher, if you please, if you would just hold us to the end, we don't have an agenda item, so I'd be glad to let you come back at the end. We're glad to hear your comments, but right now this is for people who want to speak on an agenda item.
Well, I wanted to speak on the agenda with regard to finances, but if you're
Okay.
saying that I can't,
You can come back at the end. Be glad to have you come back at the end.
Good evening. My name is Diane Sombrano, and I am going to speak on agenda items, and it will be with regard to item number 4, the dedication of the parcels on, or the strips of the parcels that will now become a parking lot for several rental car agencies. It seems to me that the car rental, the rack, the rental facility for automobiles at LAX is something that we probably have been definitely impacted by on a regular basis. And I think that it is interesting that as we move forward with all of the craziness that's happening in Lawa, that perhaps maybe some folks here might pay as much attention to the residents that was not paid when we spoke out about that Tudor Sevilla contract. That was just kind of amusing that that came out this week. But with regard to rental car agencies, they cannot be our continuous source of, well, traffic. And yet they are. And it never ceases to amaze me how when we have someone who had the opportunity or willingness to put real car lots in this community, we chose instead to enable someone to have temporary pop-up ones. And that's because we had another pop-up sales show this weekend. And I think that as we discuss, what is it, that cute little Where'd it go? That other item, oh, I'm sorry, that's for the other public hearing, for how we establish our rental, not our rental, our fee structure. How is it that some folks end up paying so many fees and others don't? How does that work out so conveniently for some and not so for others? I was looking on the payment of bills for our payment for posting all of the salaries and all those things you voted on the last couple weeks. I haven't found them. They did not appear in the Inglewood Today that I saw. I didn't see the bill for the California Crusader. I haven't been able to find one of those recently. I'm hoping that someone will enlighten me why it does not appear on the payment of bills, because I think the whole public would like to know what adjustments you've made to salary schedules, what adjustments you've made into our workforce, because that does impact each and every one of us. So hopefully we can find that published somewhere as well. I think you're supposed to.
My name is Willie A.G. I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I stand here to support consent calendar number 2. This is important to me. It's important to the city of Inglewood. Art it means so much to great cities, and I think Inglewood is a great city. And we have great people like the 2 ladies that got up and spoke in favor of this item. I support it, and I'm chairman of Park and Recreation, and we approved it. So I hope this council approve it also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. Item 1, CSA 1 and H2.
Move allow payment.
Second. Madam Clerk.
Council members Dodson. I'm sorry, council and agency members Dodson. Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Buds.
Aye. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider an ordinance to remove development fee amounts from the Inglewood Municipal Code, including the fees in Chapter 10, Public Works, Chapter 11, Building, and Chapter 12, Planning and Zoning. Zoning Code Amendment, ZCA 2013-03.
Has the notice of this hearing been given in the time, form, and manners required by law, and do you have the affidavit on file?
A notice has been given, an affidavit is on file.
Is the complete file of the Planning Commission present?
Yes, the file is present.
Receive and file. Is there a staff report on the matter?
Yes, Ms. Linda Tatum, Acting Economic and Community Development Director, will give the staff report.
Welcome, Ms. Tatum.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Buds, members of the City Council. This is a public hearing to consider a modification to the city's development fees. And the staff recommendation for this item includes 3 actions. The first is to affirm the categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA. The second is to introduce an ordinance to remove these fee amounts from the Inglewood Municipal Code, Chapters 10, 11, and 12. And the third is for the City Council to adopt a resolution to add the existing fees, the modified fees, and new fees to the city's master fee schedule. I'd like to give a little bit of background regarding the proposed fee schedule amendment. In 2007, staff introduced an ordinance to establish a master fee schedule. At that time, that master fee schedule included a list of all the city fees and a proposed increase in those fees. And at the time this was considered, the City Council at that time chose to not establish the master fee schedule. However, they did select some of the fees from the list. However, they did not adopt most of those fee increases at that time. And back in 2011, the city entered into a consultant contract to bring a consultant on board to do a full and comprehensive assessment of the city's fees. And that consultant worked with the various city departments to take a look at those fees with the objective to determine an appropriate level for the city fees that would consider cost recovery as one of the factors. In October 1st of 2013, the City Council proceeded to adopt a master fee schedule with the objective to have a fee schedule that established all of the city's fees in one location in that master fee schedule. So tonight, if the City Council should adopt the master fee schedule that's recommended, it would remove all of the fees from the city's municipal code, and specifically all of the city's development fees. And in particular, the purpose behind removing those fees from the code is to make it easier for the public to find the fees, because they would be in one location rather than how it is now. They're located in many different sections of the Inglewood Municipal Code. So this just makes it easier for the public to access those fees, and further, it makes it easier for the City Council to update those fees on a yearly basis when they consider the budget, if it's done via a resolution as is being proposed tonight. And in particular, a little bit of background on the development fees. Those are essentially the fees that are paid. A developer or a property owner comes in to provide, for the city to provide required fee services, such as the issuance of permits, to have plans reviewed or approved. And the purpose of those fees, of course, is to pay for a portion of the city's cost to provide those fees. And those fees, for most of the development fees in particular, go directly into the city's general fund to cover a portion of those costs. Briefly, the analysis that was considered by staff in terms of coming up with an appropriate level for those fees considered several factors. And those factors included such things as cost recovery. We looked at the level of the fees, those same fees in other surrounding cities, to make sure that the city was being competitive with other cities. It also considered whether or not it was a fee that would be charged to a resident as opposed to a business or a developer. And it also considered in some cases, the consumer price index. And the idea was that all of these factors would be considered to make sure that the fees were at an appropriate level, so that the city would be competitive and yet at the same time achieve some cost recovery. The other factor that was also considered was how long those fees had been stagnant at their current level. And with a few exceptions, some of the fees have been the same for about 26 years. That's probably the extreme case, but many of the fees, especially in planning, have not been increased in 26 years. Just in conclusion, there is no city funding that's required for the City Council to take this action to remove the fees. However, finance estimate that if the City Council does increase or modify the fees as proposed, it would add approximately $150,000 to the city's general fund. The timing on the item that is being recommended tonight, based upon the state law for noticing on fee schedules and the timing for it to be effective, is such that if council acts tonight, this fee recommendation would be effective in starting January 1st of 2014. In conclusion, staff recommends that the mayor and the council affirm the negative declaration and also approve the proposed code amendments, including zoning ordinance amendment number 2013-03, and adopt a resolution to add these fees to the city's master fee schedule. This concludes staff comments, and staff from the building department as well as public works, in addition to myself, can answer any questions you might have.
Are there any persons present who wish to address the council on the matter? Mr. Ford, welcome.
Mayor Butts and council members, thank you so much for allowing me to address the council. My name's Dave Ford. I'm region manager for Southern California Edison. I realize that your resolution tonight to increase the fees and some of those fees that pertain to the infrastructure work that we do here in the city will increase in cost. We would like the opportunity to meet with the council and staff, or meet with the city staff, to discuss these fees that pertain to the type of work that we're doing here in the city, such as infrastructure work, encroachment that involved street permitting, and other types of work that we do. In due respect to us not being able to contact the city staff prior to tonight, I would ask that the council appeal to my request to allow us to have some additional comments regarding the resolution and work with the city staff and continue the wonderful relationship that we have with your city. And I just want to go on to record that that is my comments representing Southern California Edison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ford. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name's Diane Sembranos. I didn't look at every single one of these. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. Design review application, the nominal increase it was $250. Now you're going to $750. You went from 50 cents for what was it, the driveway approach, to $5 a square foot. That's not nominal. That's fairly significant. And while some of the others are insignificant, some of these are significant. Tentative parcel map from 300 went up 3 times plus to 1,000. You doubled engineering. General plan amendment went from 600 to 5,000. Those are not nominal. And to say that just because it has been a while since the price went up, I don't think most of you would feel too great if you went in for, I don't know, what's the least costly thing in a restaurant, a grilled cheese sandwich? If they went up from $5 to $60, sometimes the price is the price because the work and the effort that goes into it it's the lowest cost grilled cheese sandwich that you can actually hopefully go out. Those of you who are going to vote or make a decision on that housing amendment that's coming up on this next item probably didn't read it very well if you think some of these are okay. Because in my opinion, who you're servicing and the fees you charge them should have some bearing. Most of you make significantly more, just on this job, not including those horrendous pensions, than the average in this community. So for you, this is a drop in the bucket. But the people who live here, it is not.
Roy Fisher, again, the First District. With regard to these fee increases, some time ago, I can remember one of our residents coming before this council and talking about roof repairs and how much it cost them to just get a permit to repair their roof. You know, I listened to the gentleman talk about the fees for Edison, but these fees that impact we, the residents here, you know, for things like repairing a roof or whatever we decide to do, you know, and just like Mrs. Zambrano said, you know, I don't care that you hadn't had fee increases for 20 years. Everything that goes on in this city is paid for by the residents of this city. Everything that goes on here. And, you know, we are tired of all these additional taxes, and that's exactly what this is. You know, it's a fee that keeps going on, and it does nothing but impact the residents of the city to repair their properties or whatever they're doing in a negative way. And I think that you need to consider what you're doing with regard to we, the residents of the city.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. When I look at my utility bills, especially, you know, like my phone bill, there's so many fees on there till it's incredible. It raises the basic amount that I have to pay to an unreasonable amount. So if you're talking about raising fees in Inglewood, like Mr. Fisher said, it does impact the residents. It impacts us greatly because everything we do, every utility has a fee. sometimes 5 and 6, and some are like replicated, as far as I'm concerned. It's unfair. It's totally unfair. And just because you haven't raised fees in I don't know how many years, you don't have to do it on the backs of the citizens here. It's just, don't vote for this. Don't vote for this. Because the city can hardly stand it now, and we have so many people who are out of work, losing their homes. And those who lose their homes are bought up by the rich, and then they can sell them to whoever they want or rent them to whoever they want. But the fees are killing us. Please, don't vote on this.
My name is Willie A.G. One thing I like about this, most of the contractors that I've been involved with and heard them complaining about when they come over to get a permit or something like that, they have to go to 4 or 5 different departments. And if I understand it correctly, this will change and they'll be able to go to one place and get their permits and go on and do the job. I hope this council approve it. I support it. I spent the evening yesterday studying it. I think it's time after 25 years. 25 years ago you could buy a pack of cigarettes for a quarter. Now you pay $4, $5 for it. 25 years ago you could buy a gallon of gas for $2. Now you're paying $2.50. If you want to live in a beautiful city, you have to pay for it. It's just that simple. Nothing is going to stay the same forever. I hope you approve it because it's going to make developers much easier for them to come to this city and build, I hear people say they come here time and time and time again to get permits and approvals and stuff like that. If they're going to be able to do this in one shot, hey, let's go with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agee. Close public comment. Oh, hi, Mr. Davis.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Good evening, everybody. Ray Davis, 2nd District. Regarding this matter, all I ask is that due diligence was done. A lot of these fees were raised substantially. And where I come from, it's a reason to raise the price of something. The prudent reason is because costs, goods and services increase, labor. If something goes from $250 to $1,000, you're gonna have to, as the song goes, you're gonna have to tell me something good. So I hope that you folks have, done your due diligence on this, and with all due respect to my friend Mr. Agee, when you use the cigarette analogy, I had to chuckle because do you know most of the cost of cigarettes is not the price of tobacco, it's all the taxes and fees on it. It kind of like proves the point. So if there weren't all these penalties and whatnot, amendments tacked on to the pack of cigarettes, it'd probably still be a quarter. But that's not the world we live in. So, again, I ask, with my last minute and 30, that guys, just do due diligence on this, think it through, because we're gonna have to live with it, one way or the other. Thank you.
Now we'll close public comment. Any council comments? Questions?
I would, Mayor.
Councilman Dotson and Councilman Franklin.
Thank you. In my question to you, these mostly development fees, or is this going to somehow be passed on to the resident?
In some cases, when we looked at the fees, we very carefully looked at the fees. So the fees that were primarily fees that would be charged to residents for minor things like coming in for a what we call a vested use application, those fees had a minor adjustment. Only the fees that were specifically developer fees had a significant cost increase, and those cost increases primarily reflected the actual cost of staff to do the work. But we also looked at other cities and made sure that we weren't too far out of the box in terms of how we related to other city fees. And more specifically, the building permit fees, which is a substantial part of all of the fees that are levied on any development, those were only increased by CPI. So that was a very modest increase for all of the building permit fees.
Well, thank you very much. The main thing, you got the point. I want to make sure that these are more development fees than something that we passed on to assist my district.
That's correct.
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, let me thank staff for doing their due diligence. And this item has been on the table, off the table, on the table, for us to take some serious action, some serious assessment. This city has already gave the announcement about a workforce reduction plan that will be implemented. The concern now becomes about, for services rendered, the user pays. No different than in doing a reality check. When the grocery bills went up, you either reduced your consumption or you paid the fee, regardless. The groceries go up because you're the end user. No different when gasoline goes up, you're the end user. You either pay it or you come up with other means to try to make ends meet. Utility bills were the same thing when it goes before the Public Utility Commissions. They set the bar of the fees. You either reduce the consumption, but ultimately, said and done, you pay for it. Electronic devices, including cell phones nowadays, people regularly pay and still use the cell phones of our user utility tax. Now we're dealing with homes. When it comes to property taxes, properties increase, property taxes go up, you don't go homeless, you pay the fees. Same thing happens when it comes to homeowners having insurance, whether it is life insurance, auto insurance, or insurance on your home. Fees go up, you pay the premiums. And then ultimately, what we are really concerned about, which will be an issue we address as the days become weeks and weeks become months, and that's the health care. A user pays for the health care. And if we have to stop the fact that, oh me, oh me, oh my, the fees have gone up, how can I afford to live? And some way, somehow, you make the ends meet. Our city has now have reached a threshold that if we do not step up to the plate and make a decision that we can no longer subsidize the contractor and or resident that needs the service rendered by the city, that it does not pay the cost for it to be able to provide that service in full. We've reached that level and it continues to perpetuate, and now's the time for us to take the action. So I want to thank everyone for their comments, but I also have to do this reality check, and it's impacting all of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Morales.
Thank you. Just briefly, without doing some of the same, but the truth is, I had the first conversation about this back the year I was elected with Sheldon Curry about how we needed to readjust our fees. You know, you can sit there and it's easy to say, hey, we shouldn't charge more, we should leave it all the same. But meanwhile, everything continues to go up. Medical, healthcare goes up, retirement goes up, and the city keeps on being strapped and having to make even more difficult decisions. The truth is, this should have been done many years ago. Many years ago. It wasn't done, kicked the can down the road, and now we're going to do it. They actually did a great job. We've been waiting for this report for years, actually. So those are things that steps that the city has to take to just come up to par. come up to par with even close to the cost. I guarantee you with these fees won't cover the cost of the services that we provide. It's not even close. But the truth is we can either ignore it and continue to let it foster and grow, or we can make these decisions and move on. None of us want to raise the prices on anything. It's not the popular thing to do, but sometimes it's necessary. This is one of those moments, and sometimes characterizing a situation can be seen in so many different ways, but the truth is we're right there as a city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Padilla.
Thank you, Mayor. And first off, I want to echo Councilmember Franklin's praise of our city staff for the work they've done on putting this together. There's a lot of work, a lot of time and effort went into this. When I got my packet, I sat down and looked at it. I can remember conversations we had back at the beginning of the month when we first talked about these fee schedules. And I got to be clear in that, these fees, they reflect the actual cost of what it costs to do business, to run this beautiful city, to make things happen. And you know what, as much as some people might think that we don't think about, people on fixed incomes or the impact it's going to have on folks that want to do things at their business or residence or for whatever purpose they need these fees, we think about those. But we also have to think about why you voted us into office to make some of these tough decisions that perhaps some folks didn't want to make years ago, which is what brought it here tonight. And you know what? We're ready to make these decisions. We're ready to move this city forward. And had this decision been made back in 2007 and a couple years later, and when they got these reports and started talking about fees increases, it would have been done. But guess what? They didn't, and now we do. We have it in front of us, and we have to make a decision on what's best for the city of Inglewood. And as your representative, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at, how can we put something on the back of our residents, and how can we take advantage of people that are may not have money to do things. I'm looking at how can we do what's best for our community. And I know that a lot of these decisions at times may not be very popular, but they're those that we need to make. And so I just want to let you know that we do care about our community. We care about our residents. We want you to keep as much money in your pockets as possible so you can spend more money here in this beautiful city and continue this economic engine moving forward. But we also have to make sure that we're going to have a plan that's going to sustain the city, a strategy that's going to move the city forward, and that's what we're looking to do. So again, I just want you to know that when I make these decisions, we weigh them with a heavy heart, in the sense that we're not looking to strap anybody from any of the money that they have. Okay, so this is about what we got to do for our city. That's it, Mayor.
Ms. Tatum, are any of these, it looks like the overwhelming majority of them are related to construction, planning documents, et cetera. Is that correct?
That's correct. These are all development-related fees.
Will any of these fees add to Ms. Sly's phone bill?
No, not at all.
All right. Will they add to the price of a grilled cheese sandwich in Inglewood?
No, they
All
will
right,
not.
thank you. Because the reality is what this is cost recovery for people that do construction in the city. The reason that we have inspectors and we have processes so that construction is done safely, properly, and according to code, isn't that right?
That's
So
correct.
there's a community benefit for those procedures that occur. And the reality is that incrementally, we should have been increasing the cost recovery for these fees as employee salaries went up, as other costs went up that are absorbed by the city. Is that correct?
That's right. And Mayor, I might add
Yes.
that these fees do not reflect full cost recovery.
Exactly. And so in the aggregate, we still are going to be providing a subsidy for the things that we do to allow construction to occur. And that's what I want to get across. And Mr. Davis brought up cigarettes. In actuality, Mr. Davis, the reason cigarettes cost so much is not for the cost of tobacco, It's for the ancillary costs that society absorbs because of all the health implications for long-term tobacco users. And that is why cigarettes cost so much. From that perspective, it is a cost recovery because cancer visits an enormous burden on the finances of this country. So for anyone to suggest that it is unfair to recover the cost of a product, that's just wrong. So I wanted to make that clear. It's not the cost of tobacco. And so what I want to get across to everybody is that this fee schedule has been around here for years. And let me tell you what's very popular for politicians to do is to argue and fight and put it off because no one wants to do anything where someone accuses them of raising fees or taxes. Well, these aren't taxes. This is an attempt to recover costs, and it doesn't fully do that. But what electeds are really prone to do is promise benefits to employees that they don't fund, and because they won't have to be around when everything comes to roost. And so what you're going to see the council do, I believe tonight, and do in the future, is do things in a responsible manner, raise fees where necessary, hold the line on benefits where it's called for, but this is all part of running the city in your interest, for you. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Ms. Tatum.
Mayor, I move item number 1 for affirmative.
Second.
Before, just for the record, because I needed to say that there was no communications that were received
Oh,
in this.
thank you. I didn't. Oh, thank you very much. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Council members, Dodson,
Yes. Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
Motion to waive further reading?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
I'll introduce and move adoption of number 4. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to conduct a preliminary review of the General Plan Amendment 2013-1 and the Draft 2013-21 Inglewood Housing Element.
Has the notice of the hearing been given in the time, form, and manners required by law, and do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Is the complete file of the Planning Commission present?
Yes, a complete file is present.
Have any communications been received on the matter?
No communications have been received.
Is there a staff report on the matter?
Yes, Ms. Linda Tatum will give the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Tatum.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. This item is a public hearing, and because it's a public hearing just for the public to provide comment on the draft housing element, the city council is not being asked to take an action. But if you have comments along with the public, now would be the time to provide your comments. So this item is a draft housing element, and it's because state law requires all communities to plan for the housing needs within their community. And by adopting this plan, it satisfies the state requirement for a housing element. It essentially reflects the means by which this community will provide the opportunity for housing to meet all income segments within the community. This housing element must be updated every 8 years. However, it has a time period of starting at 2013 and going through 2021. Our current housing element actually ends in 2014, and that's a fluke of state law that the years overlap. However, with the adoption of this element by February of 2014, the city will be in compliance with state law. Now, the process is that after tonight's public hearing, we will be coming back in February for a second public hearing, and at that public hearing, we will be asking the city council to take an action on the draft housing element. And I'd like to just briefly indicate that what's in this housing element, in addition to goals and policies for us to address the housing needs for all the residents in the community, it lays out a plan for the community to address what's called by the Southern California Association of Governments our regional fair share. And our regional fair share that we get from the Southern California Association of Governments in the regional housing needs allocation is 1,013 units. and those 1,013 units are broken out into the 5 different income levels, including extremely low income, very low income, and moderate income, which is market rate, as well as above moderate, which are both market rate housing units. So the city has a requirement over that next from 2013 through 2021 to produce 1,013 units. Now the city has the requirement to provide the opportunity for those housing units to be developed. We're not required to actually build it. The city doesn't have to provide for it, to fund it. However, we have to have programs and zoning code regulations that allow it to be built within the community. And the primary requirement is that the city identify the housing sites within the community where the potential for those housing sites to be developed occurs. And we've done that in compliance with state law. The state Department of Housing and Community Development will review the city's housing element. They will provide feedback. We've already been in touch with them, and they've provided some very preliminary, very minor comments on our document. So we expect that by the end of November, we will have full comments from the state, and we can proceed to bring this back to City Council for an adoption. So with that, I'd like to close staff comments, and I'm here to address any questions you might have on the draft element.
Are there any persons present who wish to address the council on the matter?
First of all, let me say I know exactly how that telephone game can be illustrated, and that's watching to these city council meetings. When someone says Dumbo was an elephant, and then as it reiterates its way through, and it turns out Martians are green, golly gee whiz, wow. You misrepresented what was said by Mr. Davis as you misrepresented what I said. However, let me inform you that if, in fact, there are additional fees from city to city, I am getting to this. If you will simply listen carefully,
Please continue.
the price of the cheese sandwich will change. So on page number 2.6, 2.6, I am talking about it. And you did not interrupt him, by the way.
Excuse me. Don't do that again. All right. Okay, don't do that again.
Consistently, we have that happen in this room where there is a differentiation there. But let me point to page 2.9. We'll go there. The estimated median income in Inglewood is $44,021, which falls within the low-income category. Based on the 2013 HUD household income limits, the proportion of extremely low, very low, low, and moderate income groups comprise approximately 80% of Inglewood's household, and yet for some mystifying reason, it appears to me that the elected of our community seem to constantly want to be chasing high end, those people who are the 20% of this community. Did you forget about the people who theoretically live in this community? With regard to Appendix G, small vacant or underutilized inventory, it lists all the neighbors on my block who don't have 3, 4, or I think the anticipated realistic unit capacity should be 7. So unless some of you move in a few more people into your homes, you too are underutilized homes. But they're listed here by address as hopefully, well, maybe we'll learn to utilize our homes when we are either encouraged to grow bigger, or maybe a developer decides to put a monstrosity next to us. I clearly believe most of you have as a goal of our community to be another Playa Vista, but many of us chose to be single home owners. And it seems to me that this plan encourages us to not be single home owners. How unfortunate that you forgot who it is that elected you, because most of you went to single-family homes for your votes.
We'll close public comment. Consent calendar, items 2, 3, 4.
So moved.
Who's second?
Second. Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson. Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR1.
A staff report recommending approval of the proposed settlement agreement and release the city's instruments providing for the transfer of property located at 100 East Nutwood Street, Inglewood, California 90301 from Abode Community Gravilla Housing to the city of Inglewood.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Council members: Dodson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. CM1.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. Mayor, on a number of occasions, you and the City Council have made the community aware of the fact that as a result of the Forum and Hollywood Park projects, we have an increased amount of interest and development activity in the city. While our planning and building department has recently completed their fourth quarter report, and that report does reflect your statements that we've had a 60% increase in building permits taken out in the fourth quarter. The planning department has had an exceptionally higher number of calls coming into the planning department and visits to the planning department counter. But I do want to caution the community that while we do have all this additional development activity, I want to encourage them to make sure that they get their permits from the city, because we've also had an increased number of projects that have been cited for not having the proper permits. So that's my comments for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. A1.
Good evening,
Oh,
Mr.
hold on,
Mayor.
Hold on 1 second. What was that, Councilman?
Right. That's just what I was going to tell you.
We're not through with DR1.
Closed session, which is A1.
We will be.
That's it. You know, we're going to return to closed session, so we're not going to have a report right now. And just piggybacking on what Mr. Fields said about development activity, there's a great interest in the city. It's manifested itself over the last year, and that's another reason why we need to have, as best we can, cost recovery, because there's going to be a lot of development, a lot of permits pulled, and it's in the interest of the residents that people that come from outside the community to develop pay what it costs to have those developments processed. All right, A2. CC1.
Mayor, if you could just close the meeting tonight in memory of Ed Zachary Gibson. He is the father of Councilman Mike Gibson from Carson. His dad passed away last week. Thank you.
Thank you. The treasurer is not present. Public comment, any persons wishing to address the council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered may do so at this time. Alfonso, would you please come forward?
My name is Alfonso Parker Jr., 66, Vietnam vet, conscious objector. There's an issue on last week's meet in the afternoon with a bunch of retired people who don't hardly come out on public comments regarding the police wanting to destroy certain records. And they quote that 5-year statute. Also stating there, according to federal statute. But I'm told by City of Inglewood attorneys that, oh, this has nothing federal statute. It does. If you mention it does. You slip that one in. You cannot say it does and it doesn't. So this whole issue actually, more than likely, is a violation of federal statute. When you deny that federal statute is a consideration. I think you better revisit it. Also, I'm a Vietnam vet. Maxine Waters has been involved in treason, espionage, and domestic terrorists. Here's my Vietnam picture. Here's my discharge stripped of its service number. To show you that I am a member who Maxine Waters says I was never in the military. August 22nd, 2009, in a Southwest town hall meeting to push this health care, which is not Obama health care. Obama wasn't even born when this mess started. I am a veteran of foreign wars. They still send me mail. That tells you who I also, 18 years, not even longer, I don't belong to these organizations when they trash their own. 252 Jackie Robinson, American Legion, 18 years before I stopped being a member. I'm saying that to say this here. This is my card. They decertified 270 nonprofits and advocacies during Obama's administration. Come to 11 Youth Justice Coalition located at 1137 Redondo Boulevard. That's West Boulevard and Redondo. 7 to 9 every Thursday. I fight for myself. We never needed you advocacies, and none of you. Come talk to us. And I'm not a lone wolf. Maxine Waters has been involved in treason and espionage. She's steeped in finance. She came at the grassroots level in the 60s when I got here as a teenager. She also knows that finance, national security clearance, and domestic security clearance, when you fail to look at these documents, you leave them in the system, do not report them to the nearest United States Air Force security agency, you're in violation of your security clearance.
Thank you, sir.
Council, Mayor, and especially my District 1 councilman. I haven't had an alarm for about 20 years, 25 years, ever how long I've been living there. And never got anything wrong. Everything went right. Then all of a sudden now it went haywire. And my wife and I was out of town a couple of times. They came there. They didn't find nothing wrong, so they left. And then somebody looked on the book and they said, wait a minute, hold on, he ain't got no lights now, no alarm. They said, okay. They called me, sent me a letter. I come down, I fill out one of them applications, pay my $50. Now, every time I turn around, I'm getting a letter from them that I owe $50. I went down, made arrangements like I do on the welfare. Then I done got another letter today for $75. When do it stop? Long as I didn't have no license, police would come out, check it, and go back in. Now, when they come out and check it and go back in, they send me a bill for it. How can I get that stopped?
Mr. Byrd, go and finish your comment. We'll talk about it at the end of the meeting.
We'll talk about it when?
The end of the meeting.
At the end of the meeting. At the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera. I'm asking the council to remove James Butts as council chairman due to unethical conduct. This is Frederick Martin. He was killed in April of last year in Inglewood as he shielded his son from gunfire. This past April, I pointed out that it had been a year since Martin was killed and that IPD hadn't even arrested anyone yet, even though Martin was shot during the day by someone who was walking when people were home from work and school. When there were witnesses, at least 2 rewards were offered, and Martin's murder made international news. I told this council the rewards may help solve crimes, but thorough police investigations, something that our police department does not always do, are more important. But when Judy Dunlap questioned whether the city should offer larger rewards, James Butts ridiculed her. Butts said that he had never, ever seen any reward lead to any killer being caught in 40 years, and Dunlap should know that. Butts also made other excuses why Martin's killers hadn't been caught, saying that murders like Frederick Martin's are rarely solved anyway. Now, I was shocked when I heard Butts say these things because I remembered right after Martin was killed, James Butts called a press conference, pictured here on the front of Inglewood Today, to not only announce one reward for Martin's killers, but to say that he hoped that there would be a, quote, series of reward offerings, unquote. A series, Butts said that. Inglewood Today also said in the story that the mayor, quote, guaranteed, unquote, guaranteed that Martin's killers would be caught. which they never were. So the question is, if Butts believes that rewards never work, why would he call a press conference to announce a reward? And why would he say that he hoped that there would be even more rewards offered? And why did he then vote for a $25,000 reward for Martin's killers? For political reasons? And if James Butts really believed, as he said here, that murders like Frederick Martin's are rarely solved, why did he deceive the public and mislead Frederick Martin's grieving friends and family and guarantee that Martin's killers would be caught? Butts apparently lied to, exploited, manipulated the grieving family and friends of someone Butts called a hero, just so Butts could act like a tough mayor in front of the TV cameras and pretend to be doing something about crime in Inglewood, when in fact, during that exact same time period, Butts was deliberately and repeatedly helping break the law to help hide the fact that IPD does not properly investigate violent crimes. But then, after Frederick Martin had been dead a year, and after Butts had sucked all the publicity out of Martin's killings that he could, then he tells everyone that rewards don't work, and Frederick Martin's killers will probably never be caught. A man who can stoop that low should not be Inglewood City Council chair.
Aldine Sly again, and just want to clarify something. 2 consecutive meetings, Mayor, you have misconstrued what I've said. So to make it perfectly clear, when I was talking about PH1, it wasn't to apply to my telephone fees. It was just to say that the residents of Inglewood are inundated with fees, which we think are unfair. Poor people can't hardly pay them. Now, what does apply to me, I had some construction done on my home. I had to get a permit, which caused me to have to come to City Hall about 4 or 5 times with the contractor to draw out plans 3 and 4 times, which cost me. That was a construction fee, right? That's where it applied to me.
Exactly.
Not my telephone bill or my electric bill or whatever. So I wanted to clarify that for the viewing audience and this audience. And last week, you used the word conspiracy when you were repeating something that I said. The word conspiracy never came out of my mouth, and we spoke about that. So please do not misconstrue what I say. Listen to me carefully, and if you don't understand what I'm saying, I will clarify it for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sly.
First of all, staff and the mayor and council and all our viewers and everyone in the office, I will take my hat off to you, Mayor. Now, as you know, when you were running for office, I was the one that was out against you. I was out hard against you, Mayor. Worked hard for Danny Tabor. And later on, when you and I finally talked, you asked me a question when I told you something about working with the city. And you said, hey, Curtis, what would Danny think about that? And I thought about it. And I gave you the same answer that I gave everyone since they've seen me on your team. I have no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, just my permanent interest, and that's Inglewood. And you definitely proved that to me. And when I see you out around our city, when I see you and I get a chance to talk to you and thank you for being my mayor and leading us, when I see people talking about how come the property is gone, why the foreclosure's gone, well, heck, you told them a year ago it's going to happen. So people got on the ball. There's a lot of things happening in this city, and I'm very proud of you. There was one discussion you had with me about the kids. I asked George Dotson, our council member one, and Alex Padilla when they were running for office, what are they going to do about our kids, the kids at risk? And you sat down with me and said, Curtis, I want to get these kids into one stop. I want to get them registered, and we're going to get them some real jobs, some jobs working with construction and trying to move them into an area where they have a future here. And we've gotten out to the streets, Mr. Butts, in the last week, and the kids are waiting. They're signing up. They're signing up at One Stop. I think over 30 kids that hang right out here have been up there. So I'm proud of you. And when you sit up here and have to be attacked by these people that want to voice their opinion, that's fine. But I encourage them to voice it with a direction, not with anger, but with a direction for the future of this city. And I applaud you and thank you guys. Keep up the excellent work and have a great Inglewood today.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, Michael Bendo, First District. I just want to make a comment about the development fees that was assessed to developers that come into the city. And I'm not sure that a lot of people just don't understand what we are doing here. And these fees are high, as they say, because they weren't assessed in the past. So the people that did not do it puts the pressure on you guys to bring it up to where it should be today. Now, if it's done incrementally during the years, then it's not 900% and 2,000%, that sort of thing. It's only 10%, 5%, that sort of thing. So as long as you do it, and I'm holding you to it to do it that way, so that we won't have to deal with that anymore. We have to make these fees. Anybody that's in business, pass the cost of doing business alone. That's how people make money. You don't say, okay, the cost of sugar went up and I'm making candy, so what am I going to do? No, you go to the marketing department, you go to finance and find out how much, what percentage of what's going to change, and then you raise the fees, that percentage, to cover at least that, or maybe a little higher to do some other things. You get the marketing department and say, well, we're going to have to hit it hard because the price is going up and we're going to have to sell it a little bit harder, that sort of thing. That's the way big business runs, and this is nothing but a big business. We're a city. We're running the city. We have things we have to do. If you don't raise it, we pay for it. That's plain and simple. Why should we pay for the developers to come and dig in our city and they get away without paying what they do here? Doesn't make sense. They have to cover their own costs. We're not here to cover their costs. So I understand completely what's going on, but in plain and simple terms, we have to explain it to the public so that we don't get this back. It's simple. It's being practiced every day. Every time you get a bill, the principal is being taxed onto that bill. So whatever the cost is, the candy bar was a nickel last year, it's a dime this year, they raised it a nickel because of certain things that happened that made them raise a nickel, because they're going to get their percentage of profit the same or more the next time it goes around. So that's just a simple principle that we need to understand, and the cities run the same way. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful day in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I'm happy. Council is happy. I think everybody's happy but a few naysayers, and they will never be happy. Some people can read and never understand. And that's where it's at. Understanding what you're reading. When a contractor comes to your house, give you a price, he's not going to tell you, well, I saved some money on my permit, so I'm going to take it off on the price that I'm charging. You're going to have to pay the full price. So why shouldn't the contractor have to pay the full price to do work in the city? And if you don't want to hire a contractor, you won't have to pay. You know, you wanna let your house fall to pieces, or go do it yourself, you know, but don't get caught. I'm proud of this council. You know, I'd like to see this council we got here sitting in Washington, D.C. I don't think we'd have any problem. We get this country straightened out. I feel that strongly about the people I'm looking at here. Absolutely. We got problems in the country, but we're not doing anything about it. We got problems in the city of Inglewood, and we're doing something about it. You people should be proud. I know I'm proud of you, staff and everybody. And like I said before, listen to the naysayers. And they got a right to get up here and say what they want. But some people are worse than naysayers. And, you know, I hear people come up here from year in and year out complaining about the same thing, demeaning our leaders, newspaper. We have one of the best newspapers in South Bay, Inglewood Today. Very fine man. That's the editor. I'm so proud of this city. You know, I'm so proud of the people that's running. You are the people that make the decision. I don't make the decision for you. You made a hard decision tonight, and I'm proud of you for it. Thank you very much. That's the way I like to see business being done. Do what's for the city, not for Willie A.G. You know, Willie A.G. can make it on his own. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Davis?
Oh, good evening, everybody. With malice toward none. I think it best should be stated, I said tomato and someone else said tomato, but we both said the same thing, which basically is taxes and fees affect the cost of tobacco. Of course, a big part of that amount that you pay goes toward cancer research. A big part of it, I believe Jerry Brown put it on the ballot a few years back, for children, totally unrelated to cigarettes, but it's it's the boogeyman of our society. It's a sin tax, punish people who smoke. Now the downside is, it worked. People stopped smoking. Oops, all those nice programs are now underfunded. But that's another story. With my last 2 minutes, folks, I'm prepared to enter into agreement with everybody here in Inglewood that constructive criticism always has a place at the table of civil discourse. To dismiss people as naysayers, is that really prudent? Folks have opinions, positive and negative. I'm not totally for anything. I'm not totally against anything. Well, evil and sin, okay. But I think that we should all just agree to that. And folks are going to be who they are. Okay, I got a minute left. I also want to thank the council for finally doing what should have been done for years. And with that, I would also like to thank my council representative, Mr. Padilla, for his excellent town hall meeting this weekend. I got up and I had to acknowledge something that I had never witnessed before in this city. A person got up and used the words, there was corruption in this city at the school board. And one of the naysayers had been railing that for years, and she was shouted down, called a naysayer, and that was on the good days. Now, with my last 25 seconds, I hope you guys can follow the lead of, I believe it was Mr. Braun, and say, hey, the reason why this stuff wasn't done, we had corruption in this diocese, in these past administrations. It's time to stop sugarcoating people. They burned us, and they burned us bad, and we're paying the price now. So thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm P.A. Edmead from District 1. I want to let you know about the incident that happened in District 1 with the runaway dog, pit bull that attacked a man and 2 dogs Sunday. You heard about that?
Yeah, I received it.
Okay. It was on the 10 o'clock news on Sunday night. I was driving by and I heard these 2 dogs sound like they were fighting each other, but what happened, in reality, the stray pit bull dog, attacked the man's dog while he was walking his dog. He attacked the dog, and the owner was trying to get the dog off of him. So I drove by and gave him a tire iron to try and break the grip the dog had on the other dog. Didn't work, so I pulled the leash of the dog being attacked with my car about 20 feet, and he still wouldn't let go of that dog. And in the meanwhile, I ended up pulling the dog getting bit, the dog attacking the dog, and the owner about 20 feet, and they still wouldn't let go. So even though he was trying to pry the dog's mouth, it didn't work. Another dog came by, a lady was walking her dog, and that's the only reason the dog left the first dog he attacked and went to the second dog. And I was honking my horn and everything I could do to get attention. Somebody came out and brought a stick to try and beat the pit bull off the second dog he was attacking. The stick broke. Okay. Finally, that dog ran away. I was chasing him down the block with the car. He still came back and was trying to do some more damage. Neighbors called the police. They were there in about 2 minutes, 3 police cars. But I had taken the owner back to his house where he was bleeding and in trauma, and so was his dog. What I'm trying to say is, on these block committees that we have coming up, we should let our people know, don't walk your dog without a stick or some kind of device to protect yourself. The same with our joggers. We have people jogging around here and we don't know a stray dog's gonna chase you. That instigates the dog when you run. And so we should let that get out, and we should do it by having a telephone tree. Let's say, I called one lady and she said she'd tell her block club people through a telephone tree and let them know that this dog is on the loose. But fortunately, they caught him and they put him down. And that's my first safety item. Second safety item is La Cienega and Manchester. If we could talk to LA City to try and get some more lighting on that intersection by the mobile station. People come down there in Manchester and they can't even see the La Cienega sign to turn. We got these people coming from out of town and they rent cars, they don't know the area that well. And you could tell that it's a bad intersection because you can see where cars have jumped the center divider where the railroad crossing arm is with their tire marks. So if we can't get extra lighting, maybe we could use some fluorescent lighting on those corners or some reflectors in the street to help people drive better in that area.
Are you talking about La Cienega and
Manchester, the mobile
Florence?
station.
Train tracks are at Florence.
It's Florence. Manchester's bad too, but yeah, Florence is the worst one.
But
'cause it goes-
there's no train tracks.
Yeah, the arm is there.
Are you talking about aviation in Manchester?
It must be aviation.
He must be aviation in Manchester
Yeah.
then. Okay, and that
they-
borders Los Angeles.
And they
That
jumped
would-
that divider because they don't see it there.
Okay, aviation in Manchester?
Aviation.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I am here. I've been actually coming to these meetings for 3 weeks. You know, I'm an active, young Inglewood resident. I chose the city to live in. You know, I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're #1 in graduating high school graduates. You know, I come from a great area, and I have something that's been enhanced in my life. You know, God has grasped my heart for me to want to be more actively involved in the community. And so I've been coming to these meetings, and you know, I see, you know, people pro, I see people con. And the people pro, they come up here and get receptive more. I feel like when they talk, you guys like appeal their eyes, you know. And then there's people that come up here and they're con. And Morales, I've looked at him a lot. And this guy, unfortunately, I see him leaning in his chair. This is we're actively coming here to see what's going on with our city. As council members, I would love to see you guys be appropriately looking at us, you know, making sure that we felt. If you're sitting down, first of all, I would never even allow somebody to come on my sales floor untied. His tie is not even tied professionally. That is not even right for you to approach us as people of the city of Inglewood. That's not right. You guys have to make sure that you guys recept us as well as we recept you. You know, and I'm also here, I had a lot to talk about, but just looking at how this is ordered, it's just not even ordered right, you know, and I just don't see growth coming between the people and the council. And we need to make the bridge to where it's a better bridge connection, because I've called you, y'all called your office before. I've even reached out to the new teen center 3 times. And I finally got in hold of somebody because I came there today and it was open. And I got to see what you guys are offering to the city. And if you guys have a high school across the street from this place, I walked in there today after school. That place was empty. There's no students in there. And when I talked to the director of this program, he really doesn't even have any programs to offer these kids. And it's like, I am an active member of your community. I am asking you guys, what can I do to help you guys? I am here. I'm available. Let's reach out. I've given you my card. Last time I asked you, will you call me? You're the mayor. The mayor is for the people. If you have to work 24 hours in one day, sir, that's what you should want to do, because you set for this job. And that's what I want to do, because I am an active member that wants to better the community. And I want everybody to watch this and come out here. I encourage business people that don't even know. I just learned about these meetings. I encourage people to come to these meetings, business members of the city of Inglewood, to come to these meetings. They don't even know about it. And it's a shame that people don't know about these meetings, because how can we develop greatness if everybody's not on the same page? We have to all get on the same page together, or else this picture's not going to get painted brighter. You know, I have a nonprofit. I want to reach out to you. I think that it's great that you have such good energy at your age, because that means that you have energy to give back. There's so many of us that can do this. Let's do this together, you guys. You know what I'm saying? Let's do this. Seriously. Dang.
Leroy Fisher, the First District. I started this to speak to the agenda to begin with, and you denied me because I was going to talk about the financial position of this city, and I will now, even though you've taken that away from me. What I wanted to say to you all, you know, is that, you know, we don't have anything here as it is. You know, the city is closed on Friday, and now you them are working toward getting rid of other people, like parking enforcement and others, you know, cut back, cut back, cut back. I say to you now, as I have always, that if you cut your salaries, maybe, just maybe, you could encourage some people who actually do things for the city to be here. This young man that just spoke was talking about jobs. I know a couple of weeks ago when I was here, he was talking about going over to the forum. A lady, Latricia Stewart, and I don't know who she is, but she sent an email out recently that says the Madison Square Gardens will be hiring for permanent jobs on or about October 10th, 2011. The first 2 hours will be for Inglewood residents only. Thereafter, the opening will be for general public. You know, this young man, as well as many, many others, went over there. You know, my grandson happened to be one of them, you know, and there was nothing going on. I supported Madison Square Gardens coming in here, and I support them now, you know, but, you know, they talk about jobs for these citizens or, you know, here, but, you know, why, you know, was it not, you know, all those people over there. I know that you don't probably don't know anything about it, because you couldn't even tell that young man the other week when I was here that there was a job opening going to be over there. So, you know, moving on with regard to this city, I understand that the hospital, Daniel Freeman Hospital site, has been sold. I guess you don't know about it, maybe you don't know about it, maybe you're not saying about it. You didn't say when that church on Manchester and Fifth Avenue came in here. You tend not to say anything about things that are impacting people in this city. When we had a meeting at the ICOP Center here a week or so ago, I brought to the community the fact that that church was there, and they should be up in arms because they're not going to be any place to park for them, and they should have a residential street parking only, and not subsidize the residents here for some church that you didn't even talk about. And that's the same thing with this AutoZone thing that you didn't even talk about. And now it's here right across the street from that. and it's not going to be a positive for the city either.
My name is Diane Zambrano. Isn't that sweet? The young man just told you exactly how you are perceived. When you are looking down, when you're disregarding the residents that you don't like or that you think are dismissible, you send a message to even the guy who doesn't have a clue who's who. Isn't that amazing? The nice young man who comes and sees and he can read you clear as day. He doesn't know the intricacies of where you are and where you got your money and why you behave the way you do, as some of us do. You know, when I look at those campaign statements and know that, what was it? 4/5 of an entire campaign was paid by one other person. We can't figure out why. Why we call you committed to an individual as opposed to this community? Follow the money. That's all it takes. You see, some of us said, if Madison Square Gardens wants to come on their dime, that's cool. But the residents of this community contributed $18 million to a church to allow Madison Square Gardens to come into this community with the dollars they wanted to. Separation of church and state should exist. But hey, this is Inglewood. $18 million would go a whole long way to keep those fees for residents a whole lot less. When one or two of you carry on about, well, it should have happened in the past, excuse me, you were sitting there. So at least 2/3 of the blame sits with two people who have been here and didn't do. You can't blame the other two who said no on occasion, because it took 3 to say yes or to say no collectively by inaction. And now you want applause. That doesn't work for me. You're individually responsible for the actions you took or did not take, as the current group is as well. Individually, and you can't say the other guy told me to do it, no matter how much he paid for you to be in that cute little seat. Because ultimately, when he's gone, guess what? The next group hopefully won't be as rude as this one who constantly blames the predecessor. Hopefully, that stops because the two sitting beside you allowed for whatever happened to this community to get us to today to be here as 2/3 of a majority. Let's keep that in mind. And as you continue to bash us, thank God Mr. Brand is here. It took us a lot of letters to finally bring back accountability to the school district. And yes, I'm pleased that I was a naysayer against the then ruling corrupt people of the Inglewood Unified School District.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, and city manager, the rest of the crew here. Great job. I want to pay special homage to my councilman in the 2nd District, Mr. Alex Padilla, for a fantastic town hall meeting this past Saturday. It was well attended by the community, well attended by council, the mayor, city manager. Just so many came out to support that and provide some wonderful information to the citizens. I also want to commend you on a wonderful job you have done in your first 100 days. Been living in the 2nd District for, man, business have been there for probably 30 years, living there for the last 16 years almost. More has been done in 100 days than had been done for years in the 2nd District. Vacant lot. Just reaching out and talking to those gas stations. So I really want to commend you on that. Wonderful job. Got my support. Anything I can do. I'm a foot soldier and I'm a trooper and I'm here to support. not only Second District, but the city as well. And I'll be there at your town hall meeting, Mr. Councilman Dotson. I want to also just say that, just to commend the council on making the tough decisions. Now, I sit back there, and I'm a real estate professional, so I know the notion of fees and permits and those things. And yes, it may affect my business because I bring businesses and development to the city, public and private, and I love the work that you've done on both accords, working together to really make that happen. So it's a double-edged sword. Yes, fees are going to be, but if I understand it correctly, does that mean that fees are going to be streamlined? We're not going to have to go through all this circle and the timeline that it takes in terms of getting permits and fees done? Traffic, all those things with development, all those things come with a cost. It's the cost of expanding, of doing business, and meeting the challenge of modern century 2000, reaching out. So I want to commend you on that. I had mixed emotions, but at the same time, there is no pain without gain. Overall, I think we're doing a great job. Let's continue the great work, and I am here to support. And certainly, I invite those. We should agree to disagree, and I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Close public comment. Any council comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Dotson.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for not being at the council meeting last week. Had a personal tragedy. I also like to apologize to Councilman Medea for not being at your town hall meeting. Maybe I could have learned how to do mine. But anyway, I would like to invite all of you to my first town hall meeting. Will be held November 2nd at First Church. And I was asked why I chose First Church. I chose First Church because of the parking. And I wanted to make sure that I could accommodate everyone who will attend. But I think when you come, and I'm inviting all the staff, as well as all the people from the First District, I think you will be enlightened because they have different departments that will become and given reports, and as well as Madison Square Garden will be there to give their report. And the mayor will be giving a city update. So please come out and get the information straight from the people who know. And I just have one other thing to say because I just don't understand. We have probably one of the best police departments in the state of California. These guys are working for us down probably anywhere from 20 to 30 positions. And I don't know what you see, but I see more police cars riding up and down these streets than I've ever seen. Now, I don't know how the chief is doing that, but my hat's off to him for doing that. I see more police cars, more policemen than I've ever seen, and they're down with staff. So when whoever says anything about this police department, I draw something against that. These guys deserve our blessings and our help because they're there for us. We just had somebody to kick in a door on 4th Avenue today. Within 2 minutes, 3 cars was there. So my hat's off to this police department. And I applaud all the staff, but the police department, I got to give them their props. They do a good job. And I want you to keep coming, giving your opinion. And we do write stuff down. Like the church on, somebody said a church on 5th Avenue. I don't know anything about a church. As far as I know, there has not been a church to come to staff. And if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me on that. But there has been, that I know of, one to come. And as far as that, the auto zone, they came through the commission. They got their license, they got their permit to do business, and they will be doing business. So the gentleman that asked about it, he's not here. I'm sorry, he's not. But anyway, thank you for coming out, and I look forward to seeing all of you next week.
Councilman Padilla.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Dotson. I know you're going to have an outstanding town hall meeting. I do want to thank all of those that attended my first town hall meeting this past Saturday. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to be with us to talk about those issues that you felt were important to have at the town hall meeting. One of the things I did early on was I sent out an email asking what is it that you want to hear about. And those speakers that were there were as a result of the email and the feedback that I received. And to that end, I want to thank the mayor for talking about the state of the city. I want to thank the school superintendent, Dr. Brand, for talking about the schools and the status of our schools here in Inglewood. I want to thank our chief of police, Mark Franerata, for talking about public safety and traffic and those issues that concern us. And I want to piggyback a little bit about what the councilman said about our police department. We have one of the finest. I worked in a police department for over 30 years, so I know what it takes to have a police department that's out there taking care of our community and keeping us safe. And I can tell you, Inglewood Police Department is up there with the very best. They are the finest. They work hard, they're dedicated, they care. And when you talk to the officers out there, they exemplify what it is we're looking for in our police officers. And so I commend them for what they're doing. And guess what? These investigations that they run, they don't get solved within a 30-second commercial break. They take years at times, many years. But they work hard. And eventually they solve some of these cases, many of them. And they're dedicated and they're going to work and they're committed to doing that. So I commend the police department, and I take, offense to when somebody comes in here and attacks them for what they're doing. That's not right. They lay their lives out there for us every single day. I also want to thank our Public Works Director, Louis Atwell, who talked about our trees, our sidewalks, and our trees, and what we can do to get them repaired, and what it is that the city's going to be doing in those efforts. And Mayor, I know I'm going to run out, so can I get 1 minute?
Yes.
I also want to thank Sid Spikes from South Bay Workforce, the investment board from the web, as we refer to them, from One Stop, that talked about job opportunities for our youth and for our seniors and what they offer for our community here in Inglewood and the surrounding region. So again, just thank you all for attending the town hall. I want to skip over now to talk about an event I attended a couple of weeks ago. It was the Inglewood Blackhawks football game and for District 2, and I want to thank those residents that were out there in support. I had an opportunity to do the coin toss, and it was a lot of fun getting out there and doing that. But while doing that, I had a chance to meet some very outstanding young students from our Inglewood High School from the ROTC program. They were awesome. They did the flag presentations. And I'm going to be attending their meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. over at Inglewood High School. Those of you that have family or friends that may have young adults interested in the ROTC program, please have them stop by the Inglewood High School at 6 p.m. They'll be doing a presentation about what they have to offer our community. Talk about football. This coming Monday night, for those of you that are looking for a place to go to watch the Monday night football game, our District 2 is having our first Monday night football at Big Wang Wings right here at Centinela in Inglewood. So come on out, have some fun, watch the football game, and enjoy some good old chicken wings. All right? And now, I'm one of the, I've joined Friends of the Inglewood Library, and I got to tell you, they do a lot of good things for our community. Matter of fact, I want to thank the mayor for making a huge donation to the Friends of the Inglewood Library. It's through that type of support that we're able to provide programs for the library, and they're going to be having from November 2nd through the 9th a humongous sale, as they put on their flyer, and there'll be flyers out on the table, so if you can stop by, that would be much appreciated. With that, again, I just want to thank you for coming out, and know that we appreciate you being here tonight as late as we are, and all your support. And if there's anything I can do to help you in any way, as I'm sure the council and the mayor can, please reach out to us. I want to, forgot to mention, thank the city staff and the council members that were there at the town hall meeting as well. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Yeah, Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And just like the city clerk, I also reach out to you and ask that you close the meeting in honor of Lucille Robinson. Lucille Robinson's funeral services were held at Faithful Central Bible Church, and her interment was at Inglewood Park Cemetery. She also is an extended family member of none other than our city attorney, Mr. Kyle Saunders, on his wife's side of the family from Greenwood, Mississippi. She was known for her spirit of giving and her kind heart, and she loved to embrace family. I also know one of her daughters, Kimberly Turner, who also worked with the Metro Southwest Service Council, and we had our meetings right here at City Council, so right here at City of Inglewood. So I ask that you close the meeting in her honor as well. In addition, I attended a day-and-a-half session of a water summit that was in the city of Long Beach, and we had a number of key speakers that spoke. Particularly, we had an economist named Christopher Thornburg of the Beacon Economics. And it was a reality check to find out how did we get where we are and where we're going from here, particularly when it comes to the use of water. People take it for granted that water is just there when you turn on the faucet, but the reality is this drought that the state is dealing with has a domino effect about your access to water. And so several of the areas that we get our water is in Northern California, Sierra Nevada mountains, as well as an area called Parker's Dam, which is near the Colorado River, Big Creek, which is the LA Aqueduct, but the largest one is Bay Delta. And there is a big issue of concern of being able to capture the waters running from the mountains before it goes out to the sea in San Francisco Bay, to make sure that that water can be captured and moved here in Southern California. So it was a major discussion about trying to make sure that is doable and make it a reality. I also found it of interest to have several cities that was in attendance also reference the concerns that we are dealing with, and other cities have bit the bullet, and that has to do with the economic capability of unfunded liabilities. When it comes to pensions and health care for lifetime for the workers or the employees, there was a major concern by elected officials that was there that we have our due diligence of responsibility, and it has to do with, yes, our employees are in fact provide us the service, but it's the residents that put us in office, and we need to make sure that the actions that we take is for the benefit of our community, so that way, in fact, we can, in fact, provide the resources that is needed, the services that is needed to make sure that our community has the, what we call their tax dollars being spent for their benefit. And on that note, I thank everyone and good night.
You know, I was determined that I would never address anything that Mr. Teixeira says, but unfortunately in this case I do. Fred Martin was the son of a dear friend of mine. My wife and I worked out with her for a year up until the time that tragedy happened. And we do have every intent to seek justice for him and every victim of homicide in the city. It's just unfortunate we have some people in our community that are so deranged with hate that they will use anything and any vehicle to attempt to manufacture animosity for the council. I'm not even going to go into, you know, his characterizations at all, but I would ask that some of you come to some level of decency and realize that your pain is internal. It's not caused by anyone on this dais. It's things that have happened in your life that possibly you're not dealing with. Talking about the, it was said here that $18 million was given to the church. I know that Mr. Brown knows better. That $18 million is an escrow at this point. It's a rehabilitation loan that will only be transferred to Madison Square Garden after they spend $50 million, at least $50 million in rehabilitation costs. At that point, it'll be a loan, I'll say it again, for a period of 10 years, and it'll be incrementally forgiven if they produce the revenues that they commit to, that they will pay out of their pocket if they don't do it by ticket sales, to the city of Inglewood. And so no $18 million went to a church. No $18 million has gone anywhere. And then finally, the $18 million was redevelopment money that was obligated, if not obligated, would have gone back to the Department of Finance. So to say that we would rather not have provided an economic incentive for Madison Square Garden to renovate the Forum and open and bring what it's bringing to the city, I don't understand that logic at all, but we thought it was a great investment in our city, and it has paid massive dividends in the development interest that has occurred in the city since that development agreement was signed. So it wasn't given to a church, it wasn't given to anybody, and it remains in escrow at this point. Then let's talk a little bit about this whole thing. There seems to be some people that are very pejorative about churches, as though it's something bad to be a church. That mystifies me. A lot of great things come out of churches. At Academy Cathedral this last Saturday, before the councilman's excellent town hall meeting, there was a college fair at the Academy Cathedral. Their little outlet on 85th Street, just behind the church. There are about 125 students there. Dr. Brown and myself spoke to the students. Book bags and school supplies were provided to the kids. And Ms. Carol Raines Brown and Pastor Elaine have always been there for the children, and I always make my way to come and speak, and it's part of what's good about this city. And one of the things that I was given was made by a lady named Carolyn Harris, and it says Inglewood Mayor Butts. Now, any of you that know about crocheting, this is a massively difficult thing to do by hand, and I just want to tell all the kids that gave this, and particularly Ms. Harris that did it, I really appreciate it. There's so much good to celebrate. It's just unfortunate there's so many damaged people, it appears to me. As far as the church that keeps being talked about at 5th and Manchester, there is no church there. The property was purchased. It may have been purchased by someone that owned a prior church, but the reality is that anyone in America can purchase any property that they have the money for. Now, how that property is operated is contingent upon the any special use permits or any authorizations that are given by the Planning Commission and upheld by the City Council. So for those of you in District 1 that are concerned that a church is going to operate there, that is yet to be seen. The property has been purchased, and there are procedures to go through. I want to make an appointment to the Police Oversight Commission. I, Mayor James Butts, nominate and I appoint Gus Ungo to the Police Oversight Commission.
I second.
And I concur, Madam Clerk.
Council members, Dodson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. And I want to close the meeting in the name of several people. First, Lucille Robinson, as noted by Councilman Franklin. Ed Zachary Gibson, as noted by the city clerk, the father of Mike Gibson. I want to close in the name of a La Tierra student, Jaheim Johnson, who lost his battle with cancer on Friday. I met this young man on the last career day they had at La Tierra, after he had his surgery. And he was a very motivated young man. He was a fighter to the end. He always wanted to be in school. Even when he couldn't walk, he came in his wheelchair. He was a pleasure to know, and it saddens the entire La Tierra community. And finally, we want to close in the name of Sammy Camille Dotson Wright, the sister of Councilman George Dotson. She was born February 11, 1945 in Bastrop, Louisiana. After 2 bouts with breast cancer, she was found in her front yard from a fall with head injuries, which placed her on life support on Sunday, October 13. She passed at 11:31 a.m. Wednesday, October 16. She worked as a federal government social worker for 30 years in Monroe, Louisiana, New York, and in Germany. After retiring from the federal government, she moved to Beaumont, California, where she lived until she passed on the 16th. We're recessed back to closed session.